Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight. This time we're not safe and sound, not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. Sometimes when I'm reasoning about us, I know you got me, it's so effortless. Back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight. No, this time we're not safe and sound, not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me?
Welcome everybody to the FPV news. It's Tuesday night. It's Newsday night. How you doing, Blunty?
Good. How about you?
I'm good. I think that's what I'm going to go with. Tuesday Newsday as our. We need something for me to start off saying at the beginning of every one. Tuesday Newsday. And we do have news. In fact, we were so busy discussing various things that I knew I forgot something. Showed live stream title, live stream description, got all that. Didn't do the look. You can see it already. I've screwed it up. It's barely news out. Intro in. It's barely news out. Which one is it? Oh God, it's bad. What have I
A
done?
little bit of a mess.
All right. I didn't do the titles. Oh, well.
Hey,
It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. We're gonna figure this out.
we'll be okay.
We are here with news from the world of FPV. Big news, including everybody's favorite, a rant.
That's true. It is a rant day.
And you got your ranting shoes on?
Yeah, I think you do too.
Oh yeah. Oh, this is one of my. It's an oldie. It's my Freebird of rants. It's like, it's my stairway to heaven. Everybody knows this one, and yet it's been made relevant. Again, which syllable? What do you mean?
Free. It shares a syllable.
Oh, it does. You're right. It's been made relevant again. FrSky popped their head up. Well, someone from FrSky popped his head up and gave us all a reason to rant about him. I heard Ian was ranting too. Anyway, we're gonna rant. We're gonna talk about a lot of things. Jordy wants to know: is that an 03 behind JB on the desk? No, I can assure you it is not. There are many things behind me on the desk, but not that. But we're gonna start out. Do we have any PSAs this week? We don't, do we?
We don't. We didn't have anything in particular to PSA. We'll have some various things to mention through different stories, but nothing we felt was critical enough to PSA. We do have some big news about Caddx Walksnail, and we did last week as well. We had a whole block of news about Caddx and Walksnail. And that's pretty exciting.
Let's see if I can do this. F you. My effing... Why is it... My titles aren't working. We're just going to turn the titles off today. We're not going to use the titles. I don't know why it's not working. My Stream Deck is being weird. We're not gonna mess with it. Right. So yeah, we're gonna start with Walksnail, Caddx. Go for it, Blunty. I'll stop distracting from your professionalism.
So they've got a pre-sale, which I think is pretty crazy, and I think goes against what we've heard about digital, at least depending on how you feel about where they're selling this. But basically, Caddx has announced, as we talked before, Walksnail and Caddx are now together again. They're selling the Walksnail Avatar VRX pre-sale with the 1S kit for $200. So this is the VRX we've been talking about. This is the, this is basically all you would need to add onto a pair of goggles with HDMI in to get access to any Walksnail VTX. You get access to this digital system. And then they're also doing two other bundles. One is the micro kit, one is the nano kit. And those are the regular VTX that you're used to with the micro or nano camera. And those are $239, so $40 extra. And you get the bigger VTX as well. So they are definitely aggressively pushing the system.
How much are those VTXs normally?
Well, I think it's 110. I think for the 1S, I believe. Mm-hmm. So that 1S kit, like the camera and the VTX.
So you're getting the VRX for like $100.
Yes.
Jeez, I mean, that's a really interesting move. Like a whole lot of people who have a set of goggles. If you have a set of goggles with an HDMI input, Orca, HDO2, SkyZone, really many goggles, a whole lot of those people are going to go, well, I'll try it. For $200. They're just going to be like, yeah, let's give it a go.
And the other thing to remember is, as long as anybody's interested in Walksnail 2 months from now, I'm sure this VRX will be $200 by itself, and you'll be able to resell if you don't like it. You know what I mean?
That's a really good point, too.
This is such a value proposition, I think. Like, it's hard for people. I think it'll be hard for people who have goggles who can support this already, or people who are looking at buying HD0 goggles in the next month. I think both of those categories of people will be super interested in this pre-sale. And I don't know, it's super interesting that they're being this aggressive. I've talked to a lot of people about this, and I think a lot of people are on the consensus that this is close to cost for them. Who knows if it's really like selling at cost, under cost, over cost a little bit. But, we've always heard digital is very expensive and it's hard to get margins on digital. And, now we're seeing basically $100, $120 VRX, depending on how you do all the divisions. So.
They're doing similar to HD0 in that they've got two patch antennas built in, which I am disappointed to hear because Walksnail's antennas have been crappy, just generally bad. I assume that internally you'll be able to just UFL and mod them, but that's too bad. People are asking, is the performance going to be the same as the standard, the goggles? And I would assume that it's the exact same hardware in the goggles, just in a different form factor.
So the thing to remember here is that unless you have HD0 goggles, no goggles you plug these into are going to be higher than 60 frames a second. So that's the difference you're going to see between buying a set of Walksnail goggles and a set of these goggles, right? So like if you plug them into your HDO2, that's 60 hertz goggle. If you plug them into HD0, that's a 90 hertz goggle, right?
Even if that's a good point. Even if the system can do 100 FPS, the latency of the display is part of the latency of the whole control loop, and you will be at that slightly higher, 35-ish milliseconds instead of the lower 25-ish milliseconds. Yeah. So some people will care about that. Frankly, the Walksnail goggles look very good. They have a nice OLED screen. It's large. It's bright. I mean, HDO2s look fine too. Orcas look fine, but there's something to be said. Those are nice goggles.
One other thing people were talking about was power output. They all appear to be listed the same. There's no obvious difference in any of the specs or settings that are listed so far that I've seen. People were talking about a 4-kilometer number that they were seeing, but if you go back and look on the goggle and the VTX information as well, they also say this 4-kilometer number. It sort of seems like something they've just built into the idea of the system. It's just
Yeah.
like, and this is what DJI did as well. And I don't know if they still do, but they always used to say 4 kilometers for DJI, even when that was 13.3 with the update. So it seems like it's just like a default number they share.
Yeah. The Walksnail system has been taken out to 30 kilometers, and it's believed it could go further with the right antennas and so forth. So this 4 kilometer thing is just, they don't want to, it's kind of nice to see a vendor not just ridiculously over marketing their product with lies. It goes way past 4 kilometers. So don't let that throw you off.
So I think one thing to consider here is, like I said, cost. We're talking about 100 to 120 for this. We've heard a lot that, we see the HD0 VRX is 220. We don't know what the margins are on that, but we assume they weren't great. So it'll be interesting. It would be interesting to know, because they're a vendor that's directly selling that VRX as well. They just set an MSRP for everybody.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But that is the case. It's interesting to see this pricing, and I don't know if they actually are paying, like, let's say 100 or 120 for the hardware. I think that bodes well for the future of the system, because that means there's a lot of margin to pull down, right?
That's a really interesting point. If we were to guess that they are not selling this at a loss, which we don't know, but if they're selling this at close to zero margin, then this represents their floor. And that means that there is a lot of room. That means there's like 45, 50% margin potentially built in that they could offer to vendors. Whereas we have seen HD0 struggle to bring their price down. We have seen stores complain about the lack of margin in HD0 products. Some stores actually declined to sell it or jack the price above MSRP, and we're like, what are you going to do? That's all that, been publicly hashed out. Carl has acknowledged it. Presumably the price, the cost of the HD0 stuff is higher. Although that's kind of weird. I guess they're using a proprietary ASIC that they developed, whereas Walksnail is buying from Artisan, maybe?
Right. Yeah, it depends on how all the numbers work out and stuff. Yeah, it's hard to know. I would think it may be at a loss, but I've definitely talked to a few people who think it's not. So it's hard to say. And I don't know that we'll ever really know, because we don't know what their deal is. So.
Yeah, HD0 needs to drop prices, says GMI Visuals. I just don't think they can while still not losing money.
One way we'll know is when we see the open sourcing, right? When the goggles finally come out, when we see the chipsets released and we see what the actual cost is, right? I think
that's
that'll
a really
be
good point.
That'll give us some idea, right? We can sort of crowdsource and get an idea of what these things cost to produce. And then we'll see, like, is there margin there to make up if people aren't as greedy, or if there's some issue with the way their process works, or they had too many employees? Who knows? What we'll find out when all that comes through. People in chat are also asking about, like, what will the price be when the sale's over? And we don't know.
Presumably
that yet.
It will go up.
I did ask Caddx, and they know who I am at this point, and they did not. They just said, we appreciate your suggestion, but we don't want to share MSRP right now. So my guess is 200 to 250.
Exactly.
That was what I would expect this to retail at in the first place. I was shocked when we saw the combo at 200, and again, I think that's super aggressive pricing. I expect this to be 200, 220, like right along with the HD0. To kind of duel with them and get another digital around the same price. But we don't know yet.
Jekle in the chat says, why would you assume the margins on the Walksnail module are higher? I'd guess that they aren't. I mean, we're guessing that the current price is not at a loss. Therefore, the current price represents essentially at least zero margin.
It's possible that they decided to cut this so low that they're just eating loss on every product. However, it's probably not super logical to do that, unless they couldn't cut it that hard. And then I think there's a whole different look at the system if they are doing that. Because then you start to consider, like, this thing's going to die in 6 months to a year, it's over.
Well, right. So if they were we see it with video game consoles. They sell the video game console at a loss. They know they'll make it up in games. But the difference is that over the life of a video game console, you're going to buy a lot of games potentially. Yeah. Is that true? Like, would it make sense, do you think, to try to sell the VRX at a loss and make it up on video transmitters?
Can we do a poll in chat? Can we do, how many digital VTXs do you own?
Sure. Absolutely.
Maybe let's do like 1, 3, 5 plus or something.
Okay. How many digital VTX do you own? How about we do like 1 to 3? How about we can have 4 options, Blunty. That's all YouTube gives us.
Yeah, let's do 1 to 2 maybe. 3 to 5.
3 to 5. 5 to
and
10,
then
more than 10.
It would be like 6 to 10, and then
6 to
10
10.
plus, right? Or 11 plus, or whatever.
11 plus. Okay, we're going to put a poll up. We'll see what you guys say. Okay. I bet that most people only have 2 or 3 video transmitters. My perspective on this is so skewed.
I'm always shocked. I'm always blown away. That's my problem. Is I mean, I have a bunch, and you have a bunch, but like,
yeah, well,
that makes
everybody
sense,
I know
right?
has a million quads, but
Right.
that's because we all work in the business.
Yeah,
A lot of people in the chat are saying 0. They're annoyed that we didn't give them the option to say 0. If you don't have any, then then you're not really relevant.
It doesn't
to the
help
poll.
the data.
Right. We only had 4 choices.
Yeah, it wasn't the goal of the poll.
So I'm not sure that it would for sure be a winning proposition to sell this as a loss leader and try to make it up on VTXs. But I don't know. Anyway, we got to say one more thing before we move to the next story, at least. And that is that I cannot wait to see the Orca goggle. I'm sorry, not the Orca goggles. The HD0 goggles with this. Think about that, Blunty. You have Walksnail in via the HDMI. You have HD0 built in, and you have one of the best analog systems.
Yeah.
The only thing you don't have is DJI, but at that, man.
Well, and it's the only goggle that'll do the Walksnail at 1080p, and it's the only goggle that'll do Walksnail if they can support it at 90 frames. They list 60 and 100 as the options, but I bet they'll patch in a 90 if it means that people can use it on the HD0, right?
That would make sense. Well, let's talk about resolution is the other thing. Somebody asked, is it going to work with, like, if I have an 800 by 600 set of, I don't know what old goggle would have HDMI, but do we think that they'll scale the interface down to lower resolution, or will you have to have a 1080 set of goggles?
I mean, I'm going to hope so. I mean, well, we know it's got a 1080 and a 720 option. So those are the 2 things that are listed. Assumption...
But that's the video.
Right.
I mean, if you think about the way the Walksnail goggles work, the interface is always at 1080. Right? The screens are at 1080, the interface is at 1080. If they're going to do a generic HDMI output, could they have...
I mean, down at the VRX section, they do list... They list 3... if you keep going, that's camera. So there's a specific VRX section.
Let's see.
And that lists 3 numbers.
So it says the HDMI can do 1080 60, 720 100, and 720 60. So presumably, we know that those older goggles will take a 720p input and scale it. It may look like crap, but they can take that 720p signal in. So presumably, they would be usable with basically all those old HDMI goggles, although... because the native resolution doesn't match, it will look bad.
What is HD0 output? 720 as well, right? And it seems to work with a decent number of goggles.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Okay, so basically all goggles with HDMI, more or less, will be able to work with this system. And you won't be getting the best experience because you won't have a 1080 screen. You won't have maybe OLED. But my God, this really opens up digital at a price point that I don't think we've seen before. Even HD0 doesn't come in at this price point. Yeah. Of course, this is promotional pricing, so we need to... We
got to see where that's going to be.
That's really cool.
200 votes. We got 200 votes on that poll.
Okay, let's check the poll.
I mean, that's pretty surprising to me.
Let's see. I'm amazed we have 200 viewers right now. How many digital VTX do you own? 3 to 5, 34%. 6 to 10, 27%. 1 to 2, 24%. And 11 plus, 13%. So that's actually out of order. It's a little frustrating.
So, I mean, if you consider that 75% of people have 3 or more digital VTXs, and 50% of people have, 45% of people have more than 5 VTXs, digital VTXs. I mean, you could probably sell at cost at that point and make money.
You could certainly
right?
sell at cost. Yeah. It might make sense to sell at a loss, especially, and here's the thing nobody's talking about, except probably everybody's talking about it, especially because they need to build their user base. We know that the DJI O3 Air unit exists. We know it exists. We don't know when it's going to come out. There are people who say they're testing it. There are people who say they have it. And we've seen the video quality that the Avata gives, which is pretty gosh dang impressive. And I assume that the O3 Air unit will have similar or identical performance. I think that's safe. I feel like if I'm Walksnail right now, I got the HD0 goggle coming, I got the O3 Air unit right around the corner, hopefully, and we got the Orca goggles and system at some point in the future. I'm going to try to build my user base as fast as I freaking can before and get people locked in.
Hey, for the chat who's asking poll digital versus analog, you guys have no clue what we're talking about. You're just like talking to yourselves. Like, listen to what we're saying. Have you listened to the conversation that is happening? We're saying if people buy Walksnail, how many of those people will buy more VTXs to support the purchase of Walksnail? If you don't buy the VRX at a cheaper price, they haven't lost money to you to make money on the VTXs, so the poll is not relevant. Nobody cares how many people run digital when we're talking about this in this conversation. Like, I feel like nobody is paying attention.
They're mad we left analog out, but the question was, should Walksnail sell at a loss and hope to make up the lost money by selling VTXs? If you fly analog, you were never going to buy a Walksnail VTX, and so you're not relevant to the conversation. Okay. All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
They want to know, Blunty. They just are curious. What are they curious about? I didn't even see the chat.
They care how many people are running digital versus analog.
Okay, we'll just do another poll. It's easy.
Yeah.
Polls are easy.
It's just not relevant. But yeah,
I know, but it's easy. We just make a poll and then they're happy. And then we don't even look at the results of the polls. Okay. Oh, it's just you again. Damn it. Are you using analog or digital? Analog only. Digital only. Both. I'm angry. But I don't know why. Okay. All right, we'll come back to that poll later. They didn't say the quiet part out loud. There's a discussion that we're having, and certain things aren't relevant to it. It's not a personal attack. Okay. Well, this is pretty freaking exciting. I got to say, it's pretty freaking exciting. What else? Do we have anything else here? We got a Facebook post. Do we need to look at this?
That was just their post on it. I don't know that it's super relevant, but they do dates in there. So this only goes till December 1st. I guess we should mention that.
Yeah, okay. Shipping starts the 10th of December. My God, this is a real product. I really was not 100% sure it was a real product. They're saying they're selling at a loss. We'll see. This is going to get a whole lot of people who never would have put the money out for DJI to try Walksnail. This is a baller move. Same with the 1S VTX, which I just reviewed. These are baller moves. I firmly believe that the Walksnail system is not yet as good as DJI. And yet these are the kind of things that you can do to get people to use your product, even when it's maybe not as good in some ways. Crazy. Okay, let's look at the poll, and then we'll move on. Currently, are you using analog or digital? Analog only 35%, both 29%, digital only 23%, and I'm angry, but I don't know why, 10%. Okay, so
people that wanted to know, more people in chat are on digital than are on analog only, right?
Right. Yes. Yep. Combination. They've at least started using some digital. Yeah. Is Walksnail ripping HD0 off with their new VRX? That's silly. That's a silly question. Making a standalone VRX unit. DJI has no standalone VRX for people who are asking about that. They're not.
And they never will.
I wouldn't hold my breath.
They never have, and I don't see any reason why they ever
exactly.
would. So, yeah.
The closest, I think, is the Crystal Sky monitor, which is a standalone monitor that connects to their, and is technically not made by them. So,
yeah,
it's going to be very, very interesting. All right, well, I'm excited. Okay, moving on to the next story, part 2.
Yeah,
U.S. sanctions are affecting silicone production in China. Well, that sounds like a bad thing, Blunty. Should I freak? Do I need to buy 7 more Caddx Vistas real quick? Just hold on.
Okay, so probably not. The digital is maybe the only thing that could be affected by this, but it's probably unlikely to be affected by this. Mm-hmm. So there's some new U.S. sanctions, and we wanted to let you know because we got a lot of emails about this. A lot of people were concerned that essentially crack down on Chinese companies that are not approved by the U.S. Like that's the summary of this whole thing. Is essentially they've created a program and now you need to be approved by the U.S. government if you're making small stuff. And by small stuff, that means 16 nanometer or 14 nanometer and below. And if you're making any of that stuff, or DRAM memory with 18 nanometer, or NAND flash with 128 layers, you now have to be approved by the U.S. government, or you cannot buy things from U.S. companies to support your production, and you cannot use U.S. employees that are U.S. citizens. So it's limiting high-end production. However, most of the stuff we use is trailing edge, other than digital, but I still don't know that. I think digital is like 40 nanometer or something that we use. Somebody could correct that. Mm-hmm. I think all that kind of stuff is around 40. But yeah, so we shouldn't be affected by this stuff, but it will affect like higher end stuff. So
okay,
we just want to let you know that it shouldn't really bug us too much.
Yeah, I mean, so far, none of these sanctions have direct. There we go. We're back. Yay, we're back. 1 second. All right, we're back. We'll keep going. We're just going to keep going.
All right.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, so it shouldn't affect the FPV market too directly, and we're going to keep monitoring these things. Hopefully, a lot of this stuff happens, and, hopefully it'll, we'll just keep on not affecting us, we hope. Blunty, I want to, is there more to say about that?
Nope, that's all. You got it.
I want to jump back to Jekyll. I never am confident in how I say his name. Jekyll. He leaves a €249 super chat and asks, "Is it the beginning of the end for Fat Shark?" Again, going back to the Walksnail thing. And I do think that since there was a super chat about it, I think it's interesting to speculate about the implications of the Walksnail Standalone VRX for Fat Shark. And my first thought when I heard about this was, Fat Shark is going to be pissed. Because I presume that Fat Shark designed the goggles. I presume that Fat Shark gets a cut of every goggle sold, whether it's sold by Walksnail or sold by Fat Shark. And I presume they don't get a cut of this standalone thing that was developed in-house, because it's not a goggle. And I think a whole lot of people are going to buy this instead of buying Walksnail or Fat Shark goggles. Or are they? What do you think?
I think that's probably true. I mean, I think it'll depend on where this price comes in. But if you're in the future, if you're comparing buying Dominator goggles or Walksnail goggles that don't have an HDMI in and don't have a way to do analog versus HD0 goggles that can use a $200 Avatar VRX, mm-hmm. I feel like you're probably just going to go with the HD0 option. Even if you don't buy the Avatar VRX right away, you can buy the HD0 goggles and then you buy in later. I feel like there's very few people who will, at a point where you can have all the options, will be interested in buying a inferior set of goggles because they can't interact with everything else. Like, how many pilots are only going to ever fly Walksnail? I feel like, maybe will grow at some point, but I feel like currently that's not a lot of pilots, right? Yeah. And most pilots want options. Most pilots want to be able to fly more than one thing. So.
There's an angle where you could say that the kind of person who is going to buy the standalone module is you could call them like a looky-loo. They're like, oh, I'm kind of curious about that. Yeah, I'll try it out. I got some Gorkas. I'll use it. Whereas the kind of person who is more dedicated to the system might buy the standalone goggles. But I do think you're right that the HD0 goggles really shake that up, because the HD0 goggles, well, obviously they don't exist yet except as prototypes, so that grain of salt. But if they live up to their promise, they will have 1080p screens, same as the Walksnail goggles. They will have OLED screens, 90 FPS, not quite 100 FPS, but 90 FPS. That's close. And I think you're going to get a similar or maybe better experience in some ways with the HD0 goggles than with the Walksnail goggles, except that you're going to spend more money. You're going to spend $600 for the goggles and another $200 for the module.
Sure. But now you have an option for
do everything.
But yeah, the difference is it's optional and you can buy them when you want. And I feel like it just provides a lot better options for people. If you consider, if they just had HDMI in on the Walksnail goggles, right? That would be a total different story, because then you could buy either one and you could decide to pick I could try HD0 later, or I could try Walksnail later, And that's the difficulty here. And there's no analog in. So like you can't pick that later.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest issue is when you look at the value proposition of each of these.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's very few people who are spending $500, $600 and are not okay with spending a couple $100 more sometime down the line to get that better increase, right?
Yeah, so I don't think there's, I mean, right now, if you want to use Walksnail, your only option is to buy the Dominator goggles. So it's obviously going to be the case that Fat Shark's sales of goggles will go down somewhat due to this module. How much it'll be, it's hard to say. There's also people out there who will be like, no, I don't want no freaking module hanging off the front of my goggles. I'll just spend $600 on the right and just, those people exist too.
I would say the biggest hit is going to be the next month. The biggest hit is going to be in the next month. As all these are getting slung out the door at a super cheap price, and that's where they're going to see like very few goggle sales, I think, versus like this, you know. Certainly more people aren't going to be, you know, you're not going to get more sales. So
no. I mean, it's so if I'm Fat Shark, I have to be annoyed that they did this. Yeah. This has to be bad, at least a little bit bad for Fat Shark. Maybe in the short term, maybe in the long run, it builds the system and they get more sales at the end of the day.
Fat Shark doesn't sell VTXs.
But maybe some of those people will buy goggles, Blunty.
I think the whole problem here is they don't sell VTXs. If Fat Shark sold VTXs under a Fat Shark brand as well, just like they sold goggles, I think they would have a totally different world here where there is a value proposition for them. It doesn't matter. They'll sell VTXs eventually, right? But in this world, I mean, they need to sell the goggle. Like their whole value here is selling the goggle. The question is, what are they really invested? How much are they losing? What are they banking on? I think those are more the questions I have here. Do they really care that much about these? Like in the whole long run of things, like Fat Shark might care, but is Fat Shark's part of Red Cat? How much do they care?
What is Fat Shark going? Because Fat Shark, if any good company won't take something like this and just go, oh guys, I guess we're screwed. They'll be like, okay, how can we profit from this? How can we respond to this? So for all we know, Fat Shark is working on their own VTXs. I don't know. For all we know, Fat Shark has something in their pocket to help capitalize on this. I don't know.
So now do we need to get into speculation territory?
Oh yes. Absolutely.
Did Rotor Riot know this was happening, and that's why they put the 30-day money-back guarantee on the goggles?
Oh, interesting. They wanted
to move
at
the same time. Yeah, at the same time this is happening. They early and until November 30th, which is the same time frame as this sale, they are doing a 30-day money-back guarantee on the goggles.
So they're hoping that people will buy the goggles because of the money back and skip the VRX.
It kind of seems like that's a convenient timing. Who knows if that's actually related, right?
I mean, a certain type of person might say that with the implication that it was a sleazy move. But honestly, the 30-day, if you're mad and you wish you bought the VRX, just send it back.
Just put it in a box. Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So I feel like Rotor Riot, it's pretty hard to make Rotor Riot the bad guy, although a lot of people will probably try to do that. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on, we're going to be talking about FetTech and the FetTech Alpha firmware next. And so the first thing we have to address, Blunty, it's a little mini rant, is that this firmware is really unfortunately named because, Blunty, you told me that FetTech's Alpha firmware was out, and I was like, oh, it's in Alpha? Is it in beta? Is it in release? And you said no.
I said it's in release. The FetTech Alpha is in the release. So that's the confusing part for anybody who isn't aware. The name of the firmware is Alpha, and it is now in full release. So for anybody who thought it was an alpha release or whatever, it is not. We can clear that, and I thought that for a while too, but now it's in full release. I've learned the truth.
Why would you name your software that? It's software.
Okay. I agree.
So the next thing I think we got to clear up, and I apologize to all the people out there who completely know the history of KISS and FetTech, and for whom this is redundant, but I'm sure a lot of people are kind of like me and don't. There's the KISS firmware, which came originally from the KISS flight controller, and until recently, the FetTech flight controller has run that code, right? And they've been working on this Alpha firmware behind closed doors, which is FetTech's own firmware that they wrote from scratch to be better.
Correct.
And what we're seeing now is that that code is released and is available for use with FetTech flight controllers.
Yes. The other thing we're seeing is that they now have a FetTech FC 1.7. And that 1.7 has a new gyro on it. And that means that it's now shipping with this FetTech Alpha firmware. So when you order it now, you don't get KISS anymore. With the 1.7s, you'll get the FetTech Alpha. KISS is actually not currently available publicly for it. Even though they do advertise that it is flashable on the website, you cannot currently flash KISS. They are working on a version to support the gyro. Because
KISS doesn't support the new gyro yet.
Correct. And my understanding is it'll be about a week or two before that should be available, as long as nothing else goes bad. And then everybody should be able to flash that through KISS configurator and all that jazz like you would expect. But currently, you're going to order those, and unlike your previous FetTech flight controller, it will ship on the FetTech Alpha firmware.
Yeah. So first we wanted to cover this just because it's a big deal that this new firmware for the FetTech flight controllers has released.
It's been a long time coming.
Let's take a look at the GUI. We got some screenshots here. Let's see. ESC configurator. No, we don't want to see that. We want to see the alpha configurator. Is this the actual... Oh, this is actually it. Well, darn, I don't think I have alpha firmware on my FetTech flight controller. I do have one in a quad, but I don't think I could plug it in and look at it. So we'll just have to... No, we have to... I see. We can't. It's not... I thought it was like screenshots or something.
Gotcha.
We could see all the cool features and stuff. I guess we can't do that.
If you check their manual, you can go through their manual, and they have some chops in there.
So presumably it, flies betterer and is easier to use.
Yeah, so main listed features on their website and stuff are but now it's supported.
We're reconnecting. We disconnected. Sorry. Okay, we're back. Let's just pick up where we were talking about the manual and the new features. Go ahead.
So it's basically got a lot of the features you would expect from this stuff, but it's basically now been ported over to their own firmware, or I say ported, it's rewritten. They've written it all in their own firmware. So you've got Crossfire V3, Ghost, OneWire, S2M, a lot of the things you expect from a KISS firmware, just now in that FetTech Alpha firmware on their own deal. And of course, they've also got OLED screen support on the G4. We talked about that previously. We showed a teaser of that where you plug in that OLED screen and you can see the settings. So.
Nice. So they've just brought it all in-house.
Yeah.
Okay. I first found out about this when someone emailed me annoyed that they weren't able to use KISS firmware on this flight controller. And it sounds like from what you're saying is that is true today, but it's going to be resolved in the next couple of weeks when they release a version of the KISS firmware that sports this gyro.
That is correct. Right? There's a private beta. I believe you maybe can request access to, but it's definitely not like you can't just go get it. Mm-hmm. You could do that on their Discord. But it should be in the next week or two available, and it shouldn't be a concern anymore. It just wasn't ready for a release. And it seems like their whole thing is now, they're trying to transition to their own in-house firmware, as you would expect. They're trying to it'll just be passive support for KISS, or at least that seems to be the case.
Yeah. So anybody out there who bought a new... This guy's situation was he has a bunch of FetTech flight controllers. So first of all, how did he get them? Were they not all out of stock? Anyway, he has a bunch of FetTech flight controllers. Oh, you can?
It's the Ultras that are out of stock, yeah.
Oh, my mistake. I do know the difference. I just thought FetTechs were also out of stock. And he just bought a new one and then was annoyed that he couldn't use the KISS firmware on it and didn't want to switch all his other quads over to the new FetTech firmware. And then was like, FetTech, you screwed me. And it sounds like that is true as of today, but won't be true for much longer. So
that's correct.
All right. Well, glad we got that out of the way. Let's do another super chat real quick. First of all, King Pooper, thank you for a $20 super chat. Insert super chat message here. Thank you, King Pooper. Dominique Campdell, thank you for a $10 super chat. JB, I was told from Walksnail that they're working with the ExpressLRS devs for the VTX's internal receiver. If that's true, would this persuade you to move more in the Avatar direction? I'm not aware that the Walksnail VTX has an internal receiver.
I would guess he means for backpack, right? Like for VTX backpack?
I don't think so.
That's where my head goes when he's talking about.
I think he's talking about using the VTX as a receiver the same way the DJI Air unit also, because it has has 2 extra pins on the plug that where DJI has S-Bus out and the Walksnail doesn't have it. And the guess would be that it has the capability to interface with the receiver. I heard a rumor that it would be possible to put an ELRS backpack inside the VRX and then bind to that backpack and pass your control signals through the Walksnail digital link, so that you were basically using the Walksnail VTX as a receiver for your Express LRS, or maybe it would work with other receivers. I'm not sure.
That sounds scary. With the way the latency works, that sounds very scary.
Well, it's all
very... You'd have variable latency on your control link.
I don't know how DJI does it, but they do it.
But DJI does a separate link. DJI has a separate link to the radio.
Well, maybe why couldn't Walksnail do a separate link?
I would agree. That would make sense to me. Yeah, I was assuming this was about VTX administrators. So you could change all your stuff from your Lua script. But yeah, either way. I mean, both of those are...
I don't think so. Yeah. The VTX's internal receiver, he says. That's how I...
Okay.
So the question is, if there was built-in control link in Walksnail and somehow it was Express LRS, would that... And no, because I don't currently use the DJI controller. The advantage of it would be that it would let me use my own controller instead of a third-party controller, or let's use any Express LRS module. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to pick my video link based on what control link I want to use. I will just use whatever control link I want to use and put a receiver in the quad. If Walksnail somehow became compatible with Express LRS and I didn't need a separate receiver, that would be nice. And on my Walksnail quads, I wouldn't put a separate receiver, but that wouldn't convince me to put Walksnail on more quads. Yeah. That's what I would say. Jekyll, thank you for €249. I'm sure you've told me this before and I forgot. His name is pronounced like Jekyll, but with an E in the middle. Jekyll. Oh, okay. All right, Blunty. Let's continue with our next story. Remote ID.
Yeah. As always, everybody's
hobby's
freaking out
over.
about remote ID. And one of the things that comes along with this is approval of modules and stuff. Because as everybody knows, we'll have remote modules that we can install if our drones don't have remote ID when we're required to at the end of next year. And so the FAA, we've provided a list of the approved modules, just in case anybody is interested in those. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so there are some approved modules, so we kind of wanted to just walk you through what was available and let you know what's going on with that. So the first product is the Drone Tag Mini. That's the one that's been taking the internet by storm. €300. Is that euros? That's euros, right?
It is euros.
€300 for the Drone Tag Mini.
And is this like... I see it's in euros, which makes me think this is not made for the U.S. market. Is this like approved by the FAA or whatever?
Yes, everything I'm listing here is approved. It's on that list with the first link. It's already approved by the FAA. That is correct. It just has both. It just does both. So
they should sell it in dollars then. God dang it.
When it's required for the U.S., they probably will start doing that. Okay. It'll be a year before you need to start ordering.
Yeah, I don't want one that's half the size of a muesli bar. Okay, I don't know what a muesli bar is. I want it in I need it measured in football fields, please.
Yeah, so currently this is 32 grams and it's 2.1 inches by 1.3 inches by 0.6 inches. So if you click that compare size in gallery, I think it shows you.
Okay. Oh, whoops, hang on, let me fix this. There we go.
So there's an idea of what it'll be like, and that's what you got to stick on your drone somewhere to be able to fly with remote ID. For this module, and again, this is $300. I expect basically no one will pay $300 to comply to the law.
Absolutely.
But it is worth letting you know about this.
Someone like some professional running a big camera rig might, but no hobbyists will do this. All right. Correct.
So next up, we've got the next approved one, which is the Blue Mark Drone Beacon. The drone beacon is a slightly larger black box, and we'll see the size comparison in a second. So this one you can purchase on their website for €149 currently. This is also approved, and can be purchased for €149. They've also got another one that currently is not approved but will be, and it's much smaller.
Oh, that's smaller than I thought.
So currently, that one is, if you scroll down, I think there's a gram number there.
Okay, sorry. Where am I scrolling to?
56 grams, and it's because it's got an internal lipo.
Okay.
So there's another version of this. I've got, if you click that link, the ZephyrSys link,
Okay.
this ZephyrSys company seems to produce the same module. I worked with them. However, it does not have the battery. Again, $315. Double the price of the one on the other website, but it's 33 grams. However, the hopeful solution we can look at is the one above that link, that DB200. So the DB200 is not approved currently, and it seems like it is very similar hardware to the DB100, that big black box. However, it does not have a GPS in it, so you'll need to add a GPS, and this is meant to work with ArduPilot. So ArduPilot can send it the GPS commands. However, this is 4 grams without the GPS.
Oh, and how much is it?
So currently, let's see if you can buy them yet.
I don't see a purchase link. Buy me. Here it is. Buy me.
Yeah, 99 euros. So better.
Yeah.
It's on the bottom right there. Yeah.
I mean, the weight is tolerable. And the price is, if I didn't need a separate one for every single one of my drones, the price would be okay. But not if I have to buy one for every drone.
Yeah, this is unfortunately where the market is right now. So that's what we've seen so far. These are all the early people. I got to be honest, I don't know what the advantage of being early is in this market, because nobody can really use these, at least in the US, for a while.
Right.
I mean, some of these are obviously approved for regions where it already is active, but I think a lot of these are just unrealistic for pilots, and most people will not be interested. So
yeah, well, worth reiterating, no one in the United States needs to worry about this at all until September 2023. A year, less than a year now, because it's November. But and then perhaps if you want to comply with the law, you would need to have one of these. But things will change between now and then for sure. Locrian, I'm gonna take a little aside here and address Locrian's comment, because I've seen other people saying this. Locrian says, just 3D print a lookalike and put a blinking LED on it. And I've seen other people say, oh, sir, it fell off while I was flying, or, you put it in your pocket. Listen, guys, it's not like, if you get dinged for this, the only way that someone is going to know whether you are complying with this is if they attempt to find your drone with an app and you're not broadcasting, okay? At that point, if you have a dummy unit on your quad, it doesn't matter. It's not like, your car where, you might have a license plate and you have a fake license plate, but at least you have a fake dealer tag in your window. And at least you're not running around without tags, and maybe a cop will see it and won't run the plate, and you'll slide past. The only way you get caught is if someone sees you flying, they attempt to look you up in an app, and then they go, hey, your drone isn't broadcasting. And then, hypothetically, the FAA, they report you to the FAA, they somehow find out who you are, and then they report you to the FAA, and the FAA says, why wasn't your drone broadcasting? At that point, at no point in this transaction does it matter if you put a dummy unit on your drone. I'm trying to think of a scenario where having a dummy unit on your drone would make a difference. What if the FAA randomly shows up at your flying field? FAA, here, everybody pull out your drones. Show me your remote ID modules. And then you've got a dummy one on there. But even then, number one, that's not going to happen.
They're walking to each person and they're checking your numbers. There's no planet where they're going to walk in just like, hey, everybody hold up your drone. All right, bye. They're going to walk around to each person. They're going to check your numbers. They're going to check your ID. They're going to check your paperwork. They're going to see that you're flying under a license. All that's going to happen if they're already there. Will that ever happen? Probably not.
I know of one case where the FAA showed up at a flight field and asked to see people's, whatever it was, the card, their card they're supposed to have, whatever it was. One time in the history of all of model aviation. So it's happened once. Anyway, so all these things like how you're going to fake out the law, no one cares until someone notices that you're not broadcasting, at which point the dumb thing that you did to try to like fake out the system doesn't matter. You could have, if you buy a $300 fully functional remote ID unit and you run down the battery till it's dead and you stick it to the drone and you go fly and it's not broadcasting, you're violating the rule.
Yeah.
Technically. All that matters is that you are complying with the law with the rule by broadcasting or not. Whether you have a dummy unit on there, it doesn't matter. So either here's my point. Comply with the rule if you choose to, get a remote ID module and make sure it functions before every flight. Otherwise, you're not complying with the rule and you get in trouble. Or don't comply with the rule. I don't care. I have no stake in this. But then just don't get one. Don't think you're helping yourself out by putting a fake one on there or saying, oh, I guess the battery was dead. I didn't know. You're not anyway. Okay. Enough of that rant. Little bonus rant.
Yeah. One other thing we wanted to mention real quick before we leave this topic is that last link there. There has been an approval, the first approval we got a couple weeks ago for EB drones. And the FAA has consented the first drones to fly over people without a waiver. So previously, up to this point, because right now nothing has remote ID legally, right? So there's no way to fly operations over people legally without a waiver. However, these have now been approved to do that. So yeah, that's pretty neat. Hopefully we'll see more of those options in the future. These are basically fixed-wing drones. However, they still were not legally allowed because they're U.S. to operate over people, and now they have been approved to do that. So
very nice, very nice.
Yeah.
Bardwell, are you remote IDing your quads when you fly in your garden? No, because it's not September 2023 yet, so I don't have to. And by then, I hope to have my house be a FRIA.
Yes.
But, that's aspirational.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see here, Blunty. Next up, we got a cinematic of the week.
Yes,
also
we do.
known as Content ID Claims of the Week. What do we got this time?
Also known as, if you don't see this part in the video, it was cut out for a reason.
Right. If you're watching this later and suddenly it goes from now to some later part and you don't see it, we had to cut it out for a copyright claim.
Yeah. This is licensed music, so we will keep it muted.
Okay.
But yeah, this is pretty cool. And I would say skip to about a minute 10 in, something like that.
So here's the video, Base 3.0 in Norway, and there's a link to this down in the video description. Absolutely go watch. We're going to show just a little clip of it to get you tempted and interested. But these guys, they have 6.2K subscribers, so let's go blow them up. Get them a lot of views. And
this is
where should I jump to, Bunty?
Cola, about a minute, minute 10.
About a minute. Thank you, Bunty.
Yep, somewhere in there.
I'll full screen it. Alrighty, we got a base jumper with a drone. Bye-bye. Oh, drone is catching up. Oh, now this drone is exactly the right speed. Holy cripes. Oh, that's close, my friend. Woo! Nice.
Yeah, I think these are some really fun shots.
Nice. Jeez.
It's basically some of the cool landscape shots you get, and there's also people flying. You know what I mean? It's really neat.
This pilot is... Oh, I've seen people doing this. The base jumper hangs from the wingsuit pilot. Oh, man. Woo! Jeez. Oh, my God. Oh, wow. He is really getting in there.
Yeah, he's up in there.
Really getting in there.
He's flying in formation with him at some point.
That's closer than I've ever seen a drone get to a wingsuit pilot.
Yeah, so some great shots from Norway. Kola FPV, again, we want to make sure we shout him out.
Wow. That's insane.
Also, everybody says, don't forget to like the video, Joshua.
Yes, okay. We'll definitely like. I'm not subscribing, but I will like the video and I'll give him a view. I don't subscribe to everybody. You can subscribe if you want. If I just watched one of your videos, I'm not subscribing. Sorry, Kola. My subscription list is extremely
a great video.
exclusive. It's a great video.
And 5.5 minutes of good wingsuiting. So
yeah, I'm going to go back and watch the rest of it. I'll tell you that. Why is it that sometimes I'm the jerk and you're the one who's keeping it positive? And then sometimes you're the jerk and I'm the one who's keeping it positive. Can we not be consistent?
That's how this works. We swap the good cop, bad cop roles so nobody hates either one of us, right?
I'm like, I'm not subscribing. And you're like, it's a great video, Bardwell. Will you shut the fuck up? And I'm like, hey, he's right. I should shut the fuck up.
It would definitely not work if we were both negative, I think.
No, but we switch. Like, one of us is the bad cop and one is the good cop.
Yeah.
That's
just a good dynamic. That's just how we have a good dynamic.
Alrighty. Let's take a couple more super chats and then we're gonna do It's Barely News and the Rant. Kenny Kobe, thanks for a $5 super chat. I don't see any message from you, so I will assume it's just a donation. When has Blunty ever been the jerk? Oh, you don't watch enough news.
Well, earlier in the chat, people thought I was a jerk because I yelled about the poll.
Yeah, you yelled about you hate analog pilots and think they don't matter, is what I remember.
Yeah.
You said you don't matter. You're not relevant.
One of my biggest pet peeves is when people make a comment that has no relation to the thing we're talking about. Like when you like, I'll post a video on the live stream clips or somewhere, or back when I used to have comments on my own channel, and then it's like, you didn't watch this at all. You didn't watch this at all.
You guys may not know this, but Blunty has turned off comments on his whole YouTube channel because he's that annoyed at the shit you all say.
Yes,
some of you.
That's very true.
It's all engagement, Blunty. It's all engagement is good engagement, except as Elon Musk is about to learn, there are some forms of bad engagement.
Yeah, agree to disagree. That's fair. Yeah.
Timbo Slice, thanks for a $10 super chat. I'm gonna buy a Smelly Snail VRX kit, put it on my DJI goggles just to troll. I mean, you can do that, but the DJI goggles don't have HDMI input, so you won't actually be able to use it, but that's gonna be funny. And I am Destructoman, thanks for a $10 super chat. What happens when someone uses a SDR to spoof hundreds of drones flying 100 miles an hour directly down Main Street with the operator being located in the local PD? I mean, that's a cute hypothetical. I have heard of people talking about making, because obviously it's just Bluetooth or whatever. You can broadcast whatever you want. And in fact, I don't think it would actually be a violation of any law or regulation to broadcast fake remote ID information.
I think there's got to be some spoofing thing, right? Like, maybe not.
Is there?
I bet because it's like digital information, and there's some BS they maybe could get you on by like having fake digital information or something. I don't know. But
here's the thing.
However, there's no way they'll know it was you. That's the difference here, right?
Yeah. I'm not convinced. So I think this is a really interesting question. Intentionally jamming is illegal. That's illegal. Well, it's an FCC regulation, whether it's illegal or a violation of a regulation. It's prohibited by the government to intentionally jam transmissions. But there's this fine line where, let's say I hate my neighbor and I want them to have bad Wi-Fi. So I intentionally put my Wi-Fi network on the same channel as them, and then I just start downloading a bunch of shit 24/7 so they just have bad throughput. That's not illegal. I am interfering in a sense with their use, but it's public spectrum. Everybody has to share it.
My opinion would be that the difference is you're not providing fake information. So the difference is that I don't know where the rules are, but my guess is that the rule is when you bring in fake information and you're spoofing fake info, then that becomes different, and maybe not. But I would guess there's. Yeah. If it's not, then this will never work.
Like, what if I say, I mean, there's this vague line of plausible deniability where in order to criminalize something or make a regulation against it, you have to be over this line of plausible deniability. And sometimes people take that too far and they think that any modicum of plausible deniability means they're off the hook. And that's bullshit. The law will just come get you. But there's a place where you're on the other side of this plausible deniability line, and they're like, well, we know what you're doing, but we can't get you for it. Like, you could say, I am working on my own remote ID system that tracks remote ID database. It builds a remote ID database. And so in order to test the system, I need to generate fake remote ID information so that I can test it. And I need to do it out in the field. I can't just do it in my house. I have to test it in the field. So I'm doing it on Main Street. I don't know. I'm not convinced that they thought of this and made it illegal. And I'm not sure how you would write the law to make it illegal.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I think it would be a civil penalty, right? Like.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know for sure. Maybe
anyway.
I'll look into that. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Well, sure. Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, it'll be relevant very soon. So.
Yes, it will, and someone's going to do it. Like I guarantee, it's not hard to do.
A bunch of people.
It's trivial.
We looked at like sometime like I think 8 months ago, a year ago, we looked at a program that was spoofed DJI's drone ID in a very similar way. It just broadcasts drone ID, and then anybody who's looking for DJI drones on an aeroscope will pick up the throwy, and you can just stick it in a plant pot somewhere, and it'll just broadcast for as long as the battery lasts. You know, and I could certainly see that being the case for people in the future. You go somewhere that's not on camera, you drop a bunch of throwies around, and suddenly now there's a bunch of drones on the list. So it'll be interesting to see how this all works out. And I don't think the FAA even knows. And I'll just mention again, as we said before, it's not really the FAA's prerogative to know. It's their prerogative to do it as they were directed by Congress. So
the FAA may not even give a shit.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a perspective from which the FAA has mandated to do this by Congress. And on some level, the FAA may not want to do it as aggressively as we imagine they do. On some, I mean, they're going to do it, and some people are going to get prosecuted. It's going to happen. But on some level, the FAA, we imagine the FAA is like, screw the RC people, we'll kill them. And on some level, they're like, okay, Congress, fine, we'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, it takes money to pay people to do stuff. So the FAA doesn't want to spend that money unless it can,
Yeah. Okay. Good question, Destructive Man. That's our Super Chats. We'll check back on the Super Chats before the end of the stream, but we're going to go into It's Barely News. Black Jungle is happy you know what a throwy is.
Yeah.
It's Barely News. Oh, wait, this is the one title. No, because my titles aren't working. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's the animations aren't working, though. I don't know why. But hey, we got a title for this one. The first one is Mounting an Avata on a Cinelifter. The what? The heck?
A lot of people are waiting for the 03 air unit and wondering when that's going to come.
Okay.
And so Luke Maximo Bell, who we're looking at right now, has taken matters into his own hands, and he's not interested in waiting. So he took apart an Avata and put it on a Cinelifter.
Oh, he didn't literally mount an Avata. He took the air unit out of an Avata.
Correct. Yeah,
okay.
He goes through all that. He kind of teases at the beginning, but then he shows all the breakdown process and how he does it. And he gets basically the shell and the air unit part onto the Cinelifter, and then get some shots with the Cinelifter. It's a pretty cool project, pretty neat idea, and a lot of people are antsy for the 03. So this is another way to get similar kind of video, probably.
Yeah, I mean, we assumed that it was basically the same video. Oh no, battery communication error. I wonder why. No GPS module. I wonder why. Critical low battery. I wonder why. Yeah, all this stuff. It's still working though, isn't it? It's still working.
Yeah, it does work. It just doesn't do all the feature stuff, but it definitely works.
Slick. Well, you did it, Luke. You were the first, as far as I know, to do this. I hope it was worth it. And very cool. Next up, a Mavic Mini flew above Mount Everest. Okay.
Yeah. Again, it's barely news. We're just tossing the story in to let you know that they think this is the highest they've seen a drone fly as far as like a commercially purchased drone. It flew at the top of Everest above the peak. So
nice.
It's kind of neat that they got a Mavic 3 to fly that way. They had to do some customization to get it to fly up there.
Sure.
Some securing of the batteries and heating and a lot of different things they had to do, but kind of neat. And DJI has been advertising that, so we want to let you know that they did that with the Mavic 3. So
that's pretty cool. Mr. Steele went to. I don't think he summited though.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, this is going to get us a copyright right here. This is Major League Baseball footage. We're not going to show this footage. I don't want to copyright bullshit. In fact, it's probably safe yet, since I froze the footage. Why don't we just talk about this one? And there's a link in the video description. What happened, Blunty? I'll try and scroll to a.
So as we would expect, has happened, and it continues to still happen. More drones are flying on the fields at games, and this one was at a baseball game.
Oh, drone. Oh, a game is being... There it is. There's the... So this is how I'm going to get around copyright. There's that drone. Oh, hey, don't point that thing at me. Looks like a Mavic to me. I don't know. I think it's a Phantom. Oh, what is it? Can we even tell what that is?
Yeah, Mavic Mini, it looks like to me, I would say.
Cool.
So yeah, another drone
way to go,
interruption
dipshit.
Baseball games. I think this is going to keep happening. We probably won't tell you about every one of them, but we've had a series of them in the last few months here. So yeah, I don't know why it keeps happening, but it definitely does keep happening. And I imagine
people are
stupid people
dipshits.
will continue to do this, unfortunately.
It's the same reason you turned off comments on your YouTube channel.
It's very true. Yes.
Dipshit. We gotta freaking interrupt a baseball game. Look, 50,000 people are here and they're all having a good time. Let me fuck it up. What a horrible person.
In almost opposite news, some great news for drones, or what I would call great news. We've talked before about Lost Dogs SAR in the UK.
Do we have more Lost Dog drone news?
We do, in the fact that they've rescued so many dogs at this point from Lost Dogs SAR that they've given an award out to Graham Burton, who heads up Drone SAR and who started the search and rescue group. So they're 5 years in. They've rescued a ton of dogs. And yeah, they've got 2,700 dogs so far reunited, 3,000 active drone pilots, and 2,500 ground searchers doing these rescue attempts.
Wow. That's great.
So pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. See, this guy's not a dipshit.
Correct.
Not a dipshit. That's the difference. That's the...
Hashtag not a dipshit.
Yeah. Got one more. Drone piloting proficiency takes flight with certification course. Oh boy, another certification, Blunty.
Well, so we've previously talked about police knowing or not knowing about drones. And I think this is interesting because this is an example of active teaching that's happening to to police. So this happened in Maryland this time, but they've done ones in different places. But they're basically giving a NIST test. NIST is a National Institute of Standards and Technology. It's basically a big, like if you're HVAC, you calibrate all your instruments there. It's like basically has a bunch of standards and things, and they develop standards for different groups. They have a standard for teaching about drones and drone safety and how drones work and stuff, and search and rescue with drones. And so they've developed this program that they're now teaching basically proctors who are coming from individual precincts. And then those proctors are going back and teaching all the people locally about how to properly use the drones and what the laws are and how to take care of them and all those kind of things. So it's kind of neat that they're getting some kind of hands-on experience with drones in safe situations, and they can learn more about them so the police aren't as confused.
I'm trying to figure out what these buckets are. Their buckets have visual cues in them, so you know how far away you are when the buckets align?
Yeah, so there's different tests that they try to do to try to get you like an idea of how to move the drone, like like in specific directions and scenarios. Right. So if you have to navigate through windows or obstacles or around things, you have better control.
Interesting. This is fascinating. This is really fascinating. I'm always interested in training people to become drone operators, drone pilots, and seeing someone taking I'm just like, I don't know, here's the controller, let's do some shit. But seeing someone take this kind of a structured approach is actually really fascinating. That is... oh, no, there's one more. Is there one more?
One more.
Oh, go ahead.
So one more. We've kind of stopped talking about all the drone light shows because there's been so many, but one we wanted to bring to your attention is the company who's done, they did the Burning Man shows last year and this year, and we even talked about them when they did that show in Germany where the drones fell out of the sky and they blamed it on other drones. Mm-hmm. But now they have another show where they're doing different displays at buildings, and you can see from these different pictures.
Whoa, the
They're going to monuments. Yeah, they're going to monuments and using drones to finish, what it used to look like, sort of, and kind of give a cool art presentation for people. So yeah, kind of neat idea. I've never seen seen that before.
That's very cool. That's really cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Like augmented reality, but nicer in some. You don't have to wear a helmet, VR helmet. Very cool. Alrighty. We got another super chat coming in. As long as those super chats are coming in, we'll keep reading them. Voltronics wants to know, will people need an FCC license for remote ID? Blunty, I would assume that all those remote ID modules are Part 15 certified, and you would not need any, although you'll need one for your video transmitter, but no, they're all Part 15, right?
Yeah, I would assume so. I think there's exceptions for Bluetooth in there too. Like you don't have to have one to use a phone and like, you know what I mean? That sort of thing. So I think because it's all already registered. So
yeah. So these, I mean, we could search, I guess some of these are only in Europe at this time, but we could search eventually the FCC database and confirm that they're Part 15 certified. Super Deluxe asks, how hard is it to get a FRIA? Asking for a friend. Super Deluxe, we don't know yet, but there are some hopeful signs that it may not be as hard as we had once feared. And I guarantee you, as soon as the good folks over at the FPV Freedom Coalition give me a green light, I'm going to document the process of attempting to get my home declared as a FRIA. And if there's, if it's successful, great. And if not, we'll learn about the pitfalls and the procedures. That green light has not been given. Is it time yet, Blunty?
Yeah, the guidelines came out for all the stuff, but it doesn't specifically tell you what they will deny for. So it's not like FRIAs can be used for X, Y, and Z. It just says, here's the things you can't use them for. Here's some of the things you might use them for. There's not a set of specific guidelines. So it seems like it'll be discretionary, but the hope is that because there's not specific guidelines, as long as you don't violate any rules, they'll just accept them. And that is the hope. They do talk about that they don't want FRIAs too close together. So that'll be interesting to see how close they mean by together.
You better live near me.
But we'll see how that goes. So.
Okay. Super Deluxe, I would say that as long as you're in Class G airspace, Dave Messina's answer to me was, if you're in Class G airspace, it seems like the odds might be pretty good. If you're not in Class G airspace, then perhaps it might be more difficult.
Yeah, and I'll just say that's because you need to work with a CBO so that you can get a fixed site located at that spot. And that is harder to get. And then if you get a fixed site, that allows the airspace authorization, and then you apply for a FRIA on the fixed site. So.
Okay, great. Time for the rant. Time for the rant. Everybody's favorite. Blunty, why are we ranting about FrSky again? After all, FrSky, we've ranted about them in the past. Why are we ranting about them today?
Well, a couple reasons. Namely, because they've released a new series of radios. The Twin X-Lite and the Tandem. And both the Twin X-Lite and the Tandem are advertised with ExpressLRS compatibility. They're ExpressLRS capable, I believe is the way the website says it. And so for a little while we were like, what does that mean? Right?
Yeah. And I was like, I'm sure FrSky getting involved with an open source system, I'm sure they're going to find a way to screw this up. That was one of my responses.
And so we didn't really hear too much from that. We didn't know that they were not talking to the developers. However, we did get a Facebook post by a FrSky representative, or at least it seems to be that way. A FrSky sales rep, I believe, is this guy, Steve here. And Steve posted to the ExpressLRS group talking about the new radio, some of the new features it would have. One of the things we talked to you about I think a couple weeks ago, was that FOS, the FrSky operating system, will support Crossfire, CRSF. So that means you can use ExpressLRS or CRSF on the external module slot. So that's good. He mentions that. But one of the other things he mentions here in that fourth paragraph there is just that, I think it's there. Let's see, a little farther down this paragraph. So
Ethos and its colorful touchscreen will keep showing up over and over again, kind of like the Friday the 13th movies.
It says,
you will be seeing these radios rolling out for the next decade.
So he says, instead of 900 megahertz, it uses a LoRa module at 2.4 gigahertz and its own in-house protocol, along with ExpressLRS 2.3. That was his.
That's weird.
Yeah. So basically, he said it would be ExpressLRS 2.3. So that was our first inkling of like, hey, this will ship with ExpressLRS on it, right?
Does he know that ExpressLRS 3.0 is out? Like, why would you ship a radio with ExpressLRS 2.3 on it?
I think he's getting information from somewhere. It seems like that's the case.
Ship with 2.51 if you like 2.x.
But down, in the next comments I basically highlighted here, we get a response from Wes, who's a developer, and he says, hey, you haven't been talking to us and stuff. And then Jai also comments in the next comment there that says, hey, you haven't been working with us. And really, I would just say
I
out of
love
touch
Jai.
comments.
Jai says, so you've come to tell us about your ExpressLRS product that FrSky didn't work with the devs on, that runs an outdated version of ExpressLRS and has no upgrade pathway. Have you been paying attention? It's cute.
Yeah. And then he says, to be honest, no.
I haven't been paying. Oh, well, at least he's honest.
Yeah. Pretty out of touch responses here. You guys can read these definitely if you'd like to. We just want to go through these. But I posted again. So his original post had the ExpressLRS 2.3. However, the next block there is the edit. So he made an edit. And his edit says, instead of 900 megahertz, it uses a LoRa module at 2.4 gigahertz and its own in-house protocol. It will not have ELRS on the radio. What comes shipped will be the TW protocol. That is the in-house LoRa 2.4 gigahertz firmware. Sorry to scare anybody. No ELRS. Okay. So we got that response.
It's not like he misspoke. Like if he just said, oh yeah, it's going to have ExpressLRS. And then it was like, oh, sorry, my bad. It doesn't. He said ExpressLRS 253.
Yeah, 2.3.
That's pretty
he gave
specific.
a number.
That's pretty specific.
Definitely. I would absolutely. And he talked to people in the comments about it and what it would be and stuff. And then
he was like, you know what? I screwed up. We have our own in-house.
Yeah.
It's not ExpressLRS. We developed it in-house.
Okay. And then let's look at the next comment because we get another wrench in the works here. And and this is where I start to suspect that Steve doesn't know what he's talking about.
Oh, okay.
So the second paragraph here, to be accurate, Tandem will work. That's the bigger radio. Tandem will work with ELRS 3.0 with the most current update. Okay. Twin X-Lite will have its own in-house TW firmware. That's their firmware, which will most likely work on 24 channels. Somehow there is ELRS integration. It appears to not be in the transmitter. I don't know if someone can flash the transmitter module with some flavor of ELRS. So
there's
really,
some kind of ELRS integration, but I don't know what it is. Like, for example, we took the ELRS source code and then we called it our own in-house protocol. And now I'm embarrassed that I almost told you that we did that. Maybe?
Yeah, it is definitely confusing. That's what I'm going to... I don't think he knows what he's talking about. I'm sorry, but after however many comments he's had, 5 days of back and forth comments with people, we've linked the thread. You're welcome to go read that in the show notes. It's just very confusing. I don't think he really knows what he's talking about. You know, and now again he says, hence no ELRS comes shipped on the radio, hence no violation, no forking. FrSky is not hacking the code, nor modifying the code anywhere. But I don't know that I can believe that because of the other information he's provided. We don't know that he knows that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, here's the question. Like, where would Steve have known that ELRS is a thing? Steve doesn't seem like an engineer. He seems like a sales guy or maybe marketing, although... He
said he was in the group, but he hasn't really interacted with ELRS, but he wanted to come in and interact with people because there was interest. And I think that was because they put up a website where they said ELRS is capable on their radio. So everybody was like, what's going to be here?
At some point, there was a plan to include ELRS in the radio. FrSky has the Vantac ELRS module, right? That's just a plain old ELRS module. So it seems like then, if we believe Steve, that plan changed, and now they're going with their in-house protocol. Interestingly, I don't think we can ever... Like, FrSky developed R9 on their own. R9 exists. It would be trivial to adapt R9 from 900 megahertz to 2.4 gigahertz and then to extend it. So if FrSky says, we made our own protocol... It's 2.4 gigahertz LoRa. We may wonder if underneath the hood it's based on ExpressLRS, but we'll never know. And it's plausible that they developed their own. It's completely plausible. So
the things we'll look for is, does it bind with ExpressLRS when we get it? Right. That's obviously a red flag.
Surely because they'll break that.
There's code in there that's doing that. And then the other thing we'll just say is, like, we don't know what's going to happen if they release the in-house build and they don't publicize the code. It's a GPL violation, right? And obviously that's not okay. If they don't release it on the radio,
if it contains ExpressLRS.
Well, that's what I mean. If they put it on the radio, if they put 2.3 on the radio or 3 on the radio or whatever they say, and they don't publish that code, then that would be an GPL violation. One thing to consider here is he was talking about it being dual and broadcasting ExpressLRS and not at the same time. And if that's the case and that code is intertwined, they may not be able to show us their code because it's private code. And if they've intertwined, open source it as a private code, then they won't want to do that. And so we may, even though it will be a GPL violation either way, if they don't share the code and they have ExpressLRS in there, I just want to point out that, like, they will have a business reason, not just a spite reason, not to share the code.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's unfortunate.
This whole conversation, I made a comment where I was like, this whole conversation shows how FrSky is still just out of touch with and I said what FPV pilots want. And there were some FPV pilots who are also fans of FrSky who was like, you don't speak for us. Fair enough. But I think the overall response in this Express ELRS group, at least, was extremely negative and critical, and just bringing out a laundry list of things FrSky has done in the past that led to people abandoning them. And Steve's responses were basically, what, you don't like it? You know, a lot of other people really love these radios. It's like, okay, that you haven't actually engaged with what I said. Was what it seemed.
I'm just gonna
like.
say, sounds like a lot like what a salesperson would say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But
Like,
a good salesperson.
Yeah.
Issa was walking through Costco, and there's this giant display of hot tubs. In Costco, you can buy a hot tub in Costco. Of course you can. And she's always wanted a hot tub in our yard. This is relevant. Hold on, I'll get there. And the lady says, oh, you looking at the hot tubs? And she's like, yeah, I am, but they're too expensive, you know. And the lady's like, she just like gives her a brochure. And she's like, yeah, I know, they're super expensive. You know, we have a couple cheaper ones. Here, take the brochure. Yeah, it's cool. And I was like, that's a good salesperson. Because she didn't piss you off or make you mad. And she got the brochure in your hand. And now me and Issa are looking at hot tubs over the dining room table. And we're not going to buy a hot tub. But I was like, a good salesperson doesn't piss off their prospect. They don't argue with them. They sell them. And Steve didn't do any of that.
I agree. I think it is different in a public fashion with a bunch of people. Like it's him. He feels like it, or seems like he feels like it's him versus everyone.
Oh, it is.
So he's being very defensive and telling you about how everybody else likes it that's not present and things like that. Yeah, I don't know. It's very odd. I've said this before with other companies. I'll say this again with FrSky. Put a PR person there, not a sales rep. This doesn't seem that difficult. I'm guessing that nobody from FrSky is aware of this happening or doesn't care, but either way, it looks horrible for the company to me.
It looks horrible.
And I already didn't like him because of ACCS TV2 and access and all the other problems that they've had over the years. Mm-hmm. This is just compounding onto that and being more dumb, stupid stuff that
Never mind that he was super disparaging. He was like, some radios are trailing edge technology cobbled together from 16-bit origins. You mean the open source project that practically all radios used by FPV pilots are based on? You talking about that? Cobbled together. The open source project that FrSky's own radios were largely based on for years and years and years? That one? Trailing edge. Yeah. Anyway, go check out that thread. It's a real hoot and a holler.
It
includes Pavel Spikowski coming out of the woodwork to say, don't name drop me. Please don't get me involved in this. And telling Steve off and other fun things.
I'll just say as well, if you're in that INAV wing group, there's an INAV wing group, and it is run by FrSky admins. Pavel just left that group, so just so you're aware, that is not a INAV run group. So
okay, alrighty. Well, that's the rant for today, and that's going to bring us to the end of the stream. I guess we should do our plugs. Well, people, don't go yet. Let's do our plugs, Blunty. We'll start with me today. Why not?
Yeah, FPVknowitall.com, your ultimate FPV shopping list. If people are looking for products, and they often are, trying to figure out what to buy, you've spent the time and spent other people's time. You've got other people to get in there and give information about products that people might want to get. And so, yeah, if you're looking for something to find and you want to pick something up, you can check out different pages like the Whoop page, I believe we're looking at right now.
That's right. And if you like to get to know Blunty better, go to itsblunty.com and sign up for a one-on-one call with him. He could help you fix your quad. He could get on Zoom with you, and you could just talk to him about, his beard grooming tips and other things. Russian fishing simulator, you name it. Blunty will get on the phone and talk to you. How do you like my pitch?
Yeah.
He also has a Patreon if he's helped you out, and that's good.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Last but not least, we've got the Joshua Bardwell Clips channel, which I run and make clips from all your live streams and this live stream that we're doing right now. And then I put those up for people so they can check out what we talked about if they don't get a chance to catch it, or if they want to catch it again, if they want to check out a little clip for some information. And the last clip we put up was about some dummy loads. You talked about dummy loads. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, all the highlights from my live streams, and if you don't get to see the whole live stream, or if you're looking for just the highlights, love to have you a subscriber over there. We have 6.3K subscribers, so let's keep that number going up. Up. That is our pluggables. All right, great.
Yeah.
And thank you to I Am Destructo Man for $20 for my hot tub. We're not getting a hot tub. Don't tell my wife we're getting a hot tub. That's gonna do it. People should stop hating for no reason. Who are we hating for no reason? I don't think we hate anybody for no reason. Is it FrSky? I'm dying to know who we should stop hating.
I've always got reason.
Yeah, no. Gee, let's see here. I'm dying. B14. FrSky had no contact with ELRS devs. Wes, long-time communication. No, sorry. I'm glad I looked. Blunty, B14CKY says, Blunty, FrSky had no contact with ELRS devs. Wes, long-time communication with FrSky by ELRS devs. Spot the error. No, Wesley Vardy is correcting you, but I will also set the record straight. FrSky worked with the devs on the Fettec module, and then that's the long-term contact. Then this new radio is supposed to come out with Express LRS in it, and FrSky ghosted them. And the devs...
Not only, they didn't just DM somebody. There is a FrSky chat with developers in it that are meant for FrSky to use to help them with Express LRS. And they did that with Fettec. And then they went radio silent and did not do that with this new product.
Yeah. And then he says, well, no one can definitely say that Express LRS is on the radio. Well, you're right, except FrSky said that Express LRS was in the radio. And now this Steve guy is saying it's not, but it's not like we made that up out of thin air. FrSky said Express LRS was in the radio.
Yeah, yep.
All right. That's going to do it for tonight. Thank you guys for coming out. We'll see you next week with more FPV news. Blunty, a pleasure as always.
Yeah, it's a good time. Take it easy, guys, and have a great Tuesday night.